Indiana Jones is one of the most impactful figures in cinema of the 20th century, with classics like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, The Last Crusade, and 2 other movies I would like to pretend didn't exist. This archaeologist adventurer has inspired the creation of beloved video game franchises like Tomb Raider and Uncharted, but Indiana Jones has struggled to land gracefully in the video game world itself. There are 22 Indiana Jones games that are pretty forgettable, with its last installment being Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings, released in 2009. But here comes Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, made by MachineGames of Bethesda, who's best known for the Wolfenstein series. So it's time for us to do some digging. Is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle really the best Xbox game this year? Are the reviewers actually blinded by nostalgia? This is Frank from Marsman Gaming, and in this video, I'll give you the good, the bad, and answer these questions in my final verdict. Let's throw our hands right into this. First, let's talk about the good. And before I go further, I would like to give a warning that there will be some spoilers to the story, so you can skip to the next section if you would like to avoid it. You have been warned. I also would like to state that I am not a major Indiana Jones fan. I saw the original trilogy for Indiana Jones years later from its first release, when I was young, and liked it, but a majority of the younger audience who may play this game may have only experienced Indiana Jones from the 2 most recent films, for which I'm so sorry. I say this because without question, what this game has nailed is the theme and vibes of the original Indiana Jones movies, with its dialogue and its gameplay. Let's start with the dialogue. Indiana Jones has always had a mix of at times being serious, at times being a bit lighthearted and comedic, and that stretches from both its protagonist and antagonist, and that's what this game does from its cutscenes and character interactions. One of the most important things they needed to nail was Indiana Jones himself. The facial animations, the mannerisms, and the dialogue was an easy thumbs up. Troy Baker voice acted Indiana Jones, who's a long-time voice actor in the video game world, and he nailed it, from the mumbling to the charming one-liners and to some real solid comedic moments. Now, I can't say I love the overall story. It's kinda confusing, but Indiana Jones has walked down these supernatural or wacky powers before, so it's kind of par for the course. More importantly, is you could tell MachineGames really looked at what the films had done from a theme and vibes perspective, and really incorporated it well into their dialogue. We have seen countless adaptations either from games to cinema, or vice versa, that just don't fully get the characters or themes of the source material. But Indiana Jones and the Great Circle certainly got kudos for its dialogue. Next we have to talk about is the gameplay, which was one of my biggest concerns coming into the game. You can have a game that matches the vibes of the source material, have good dialogue, but if it isn't fun to play, it's not really worth much. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle focuses in on 3 core aspects: its stealth, its close combat duel style mechanics that to me is a mix of Dishonored and Hellblade, and its puzzle solving. Now, for those familiar with MachineGames' previous work in Wolfenstein, those games were bloody, fast-paced, you use wild weapons, and you gun down and mangle Nazis. And this game is a pretty big change from that formula, outside the Nazi beating of course. But the combination works pretty well here. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a first-person game where you complete various missions, trying to keep a low profile, reaching points of interest, usually surrounded by a large amount of enemies. This is not really a game that you can go Rambo style through enemies with heavy guns, or have the parkour ability of Assassin's Creed characters. You are given a whip, a pistol, and your fist as your default weapon, and your character is slower overall. The game really pushes you to scout out the area, looking for different ways to traverse where you need to go. You use items scattered across the area like pipes, pans, shovels, and weird items like fly swatters and brushes to beat up enemies with. You can also use items like bottles to throw and distract enemies as well. This game doesn't focus too much on its gunplay. It's pretty basic. There are 8 different guns in the game outside your revolver that you can pick up from enemies that you defeat, but the ammo is very limited, and that's compared to the 18 different physical weapons that you can pick up, showing that the game really wants you to get up close and physical with enemies. You really need to pick your battles, as you can get swarmed by enemies especially at higher difficulties, and you take a lot of damage pretty easily. At times it feels like your enemies have iron jaws, or anime style plot armor, while you're built out of glass. But learning new abilities or perks, executing some of your best combos using your whip, when to timely use your revolver, and being able to parry, dodge, and land some haymakers can be pretty satisfying, and what I felt was a big distinguisher from a game like Hellblade 2 that came out earlier this year, where they limited your encounters, where Indiana Jones made it more dynamic. The sound effects when punching feels like the movies as well, which was a nice touch. It's not flawless. I definitely wish there were more physical weapons since it's so focused on close combat, and the weapons degrade so fast. It gave me flashback nightmares of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you barely use a weapon on one guy and it breaks on you. When it comes to puzzles, to me, it's one of the best aspects of the game. Throughout the game, you will visit famous sites, tombs, caves, secret rooms, and will need to solve puzzles throughout, whether to enter it or find some sort of treasure or relic. This will be for main missions and even side quests. There's also discovery missions where you have to take photos of certain places, find certain objects, or look for codes to open safes and chests. It really brings out the archaeologist or adventurer in you. It entices you to scour around the area to make sure you didn't miss anything. I'm trying not to reveal too much, but they have some nice variety to them. And although quite a bit of puzzles are easy, there are some that are challenging and require you to really focus on your surroundings and potential clues you may have picked up. There is one thing though that drove me crazy that this game does. When you pick up relics, items, letters, etc., they allow you to examine it in your hand and you can move that item around like it's an Ace Attorney game to see if there are any more clues that were not initially seen. The problem is, there is practically never anything interesting seen on these items. What the hell is the point? It feels like a complete waste of a mechanic and a missed opportunity. I like the majority of the puzzles, but definitely wanted to point that flaw out. One last thing before I move into the next segment that I did want to address is the performance of the game. I played this game on the Xbox Series X, and I thought it ran pretty well. The set pieces were beautiful, marking some of the best graphics I have seen from Xbox this year. The game didn't crash at all on my playthrough, and I did not notice many bugs outside a select few like this one. I bring this up because unfortunately a game's performance at launch over the last few years have really become a coin toss, where games are being put out broken or half-baked and need numerous updates to fix them over time. Xbox has had a few examples of that this year. Stalker 2 shows a bunch of potential. It had a crazy amount of bugs at launch that the developer had to work on in the coming days and weeks to address. Microsoft Flight Simulator was practically broken at launch, where reviewers had to pause their reviews because of the bugs and server issues, and couldn't fully play it until it received updates. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle came out relatively polished, and I'm not throwing a party for what should be an expectation, but in today's modern gaming era, I wanted to address it and give it a thumbs up. What is your favorite part of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? Let us know in the comments below, and if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe for future videos. And don't forget to hit that bell button to get notifications. And now, back to the review. With the good, we have to talk about the bad. And one of the most disappointing aspects of the game is the enemy AI. One of the harder things to do in games is to create a smart and engaging enemy AI. But in my opinion, what the most important thing is its consistency, for which this game lacks. This is especially troubling, since the game relies so heavily on stealth, and they did not give you many other options to get through missions. I mean, the AI for enemies fall on two extreme ends. Most are completely brain dead, or some can spot you from a mile away, and have the spider senses that even Spider-Man couldn't even dream of having. There is no in between. I mean, some of it's pretty laughable. You can literally stand up out of cover, be spotted, and literally just crouch in the same spot, and they will forget you existed. Or you can slam an enemy through a table and they won't even bother to check it out. But then in another scenario, they may hear you use your whip on an enemy down the road, and then you get jumped by 10 dudes. Most of the time though, if you get spotted, you literally can just run out of the area, the AI just restarts, they mostly won't remember what just happened and go back to the same pathway they traveled previously. I like the ability to throw bottles to distract enemies. Or after having beat up an enemy, you have to hide their body so it doesn't get spotted. But those mechanics are inconsistent, and it's most likely the result of the enemy's AI. I also want to make clear, it's not that certain enemies can't be smarter than others. It's that the peaks and valleys of their intelligence is so vast and inconsistent, it feels like it's not even worth engaging at times, and can hurt the stealth-focused gameplay. The next thing I want to address is the environments or levels of the game. As mentioned earlier, the look of the levels and set pieces throughout the game are really good. It's one of the games that showcases next-gen level graphics. The issue I have is how the game divvy ups its time spent at these various levels or chapters. Indiana Jones takes on average 14 hours to beat its main story, and slightly over 23 hours when you add the side content. There are 7 chapters including a prologue, and you get to visit 8 different locations. The game is linear, but a few chapters have a sandbox that you can traverse, making it semi-open world and complete side content. All of this is pretty solid. However, you spend the majority of your time in 3 locations, and quite frankly, the most stuff you do is in Chapter 2 at the Vatican and Chapter 3 in Egypt. Make no mistake, I like both chapters, but there are 3 chapters or locations that are one and done main missions, and a 4th chapter that has one side mission outside the main one. I really wish there was some more balance to these locations, cause some of these other places looked cool, and wish we could have done more in them. There are more side content in Chapter 2 and 3 than the rest of the chapters combined. When looking at Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, I thought there were some positives and negatives. If you are an Indiana Jones fan, this game may be right up your alley. They do a great job of capturing the themes and vibes of Indiana Jones with its cutscenes, dialogues, and beautiful set pieces, and really makes it feel like it belongs in the Indiana Jones universe. From a gameplay perspective, using random objects as weapons, the sound audio of the whip and your punches, and the occasional gunplay can be pretty satisfying. I mean, who doesn't love beating up Nazis? The puzzles can be pretty fun and have a solid variety to them. However, the enemy AI is so inconsistent, from being absolute brain dead to developing spider senses at the drop of a dime, that can really hurt the stealth-focused gameplay that is pivotal to this game. This game is slower paced and more cinematic, so if you're looking for a fast-paced game like Wolfenstein, or some heavy action like we have seen in Uncharted or Tomb Raider, then this game may not completely satisfy you. I am giving Indiana Jones and the Great Circle an 8.5 out of 10 and a Marsman Gaming stamp of approval. I believe some reviewers have been a bit blinded by nostalgia when looking at this game and not recognizing some of its flaws, and giving even exaggerated claims of this being the best Xbox game of the generation. But what I will say is that even though this game does not have as an engaging world as Stalker 2, won't blow up the sales charts like COD, or have the graphics of Hellblade 2, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is the most well-rounded game at launch for Xbox, and for me, takes the crown for Xbox's best game of 2024. Thank you everyone for watching. Let us know your thoughts of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle below. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe for future content. Also check out one of our latest videos analyzing if Black Ops 6 is the best COD campaign of the last decade in the end screen. This is Frank from Marsman Gaming signing off. Game on.